No. It's pretty.
The thing that I would be concerned about is like it's open in Zoom, and if you try to open a new Zoom, is it gonna?
That's the thing. It is Zoom. So
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Hello.
there you go. Big capital.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm just gonna
Good.
rename myself.
Yeah, no worries. So my name's
Going so-
David.
You're David?
I'm pro for tech support.
Former employee also.
So I'll be helping you out today.
Not even
Are you the
full-on
host for the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. I'm going to make you a co-host, so just stand by.
Okay.
Let's see, make co-host. Perfect.
So one,
Is it anyone else hosting with you? Or is it just yourself?
It's just me today.
Perfect. Okay, so that should be good to go. I can see you, I can hear you, so you should be good. So if you need anything, just let me know. I'll be quiet, but I can come on mic if you need me. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Perfect.
All right. Take care.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming in today and joining me. We have a very important topic that I believe a lot of us struggle with, or at least if you're not considering yourself as maybe possibly struggling with these things, they are things that we can improve in our lives. And we should make it a point to actually address them often, to revisit them and address them often, to keep us from burnout and all kinds of mental health issues that can arise if we don't address them. So, one thing I would like to do right away is to say that I would love for you to jump in and interject, even share a small story if you feel that it's applicable to what we're discussing. And if it becomes too much, I'll let you know. I'll stop questions and things like this. But the idea is that I am very aware. I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a moment, but I'm very aware that people retain information when you share stories. Okay, when somebody is able to make what you're listening to or what you're hearing applicable to them on another level. Okay, so if you have any questions at all, concerns, ideas, or can share something, please just jump right on in. You can unmute yourself. I'm not sure if everybody knows how to use Zoom, but there is a button at the bottom for you to be able to unmute yourself. It should be toward the left. And of course, if you want to show your face while speaking, that's fine too, but it's not necessary. Okay? So my name is Chanelle Linton, and I work for an organization called PCPI. It stands for Progress Career Planning Institute. We have many programs that are funded by all three levels of government to assist people in finding employment. I am managing a youth program currently, but I've been working with PCPI for 14 and a half years, and I've had, I think, 9 titles. So I've done every single thing that there is to do at this place. And I really, really thoroughly understand my demographic, who I'm working with, and what it is that we're trying to accomplish. But in doing the work that I do, I consider myself an empath and somebody that is incredibly social and loves people. I find that this is an area that I struggle with all the time, okay? Keeping boundaries, making sure that I'm keeping my energy and myself safe, and that I give myself the time to recoup from some of the negative or darker parts of our jobs. And what am I talking about here? Some of the information that's shared with us from our clients and coworkers sometimes can be quite difficult, and we do need to take some time to come out of that, regroup, and come back in to be our best self. So having said that, I would like to begin. I've been watching people all morning and I see I'm having the same issues. Okay, so we'll start here. So today in this discussion, in this session, we will discuss the importance of boundaries, of course. Setting expectations with coworkers, managers, and clients. I'll give you a quick guide to conflict resolution and a system to improve workplace communication. And finally, the coveted work-life balance, the thing that we all want. So understanding it and creating safe spaces for yourself. All right, starting with boundaries at work. Let's do that. So the importance of boundaries at work. Let's establish this. You're going to find with each section, I like to either give a definition or some context just to get you in the mindset of what we're going to cover. What is a boundary? Well, here, a boundary is a line. I mean, this is the basic stuff that you can probably find in any dictionary. So a line that marks the limits of an area, right? A dividing line. Boundaries are created to protect you, and boundaries can also explain how you expect to be treated. Some of us have heard that saying before. You teach people how to treat you. And this, for me personally, is the reason why this is such a hot topic for me, something that I want to practice in my everyday life. Okay, I'll explain. I'll explain why. So why is it so important to create these healthy boundaries at work? Well, I mentioned some of them, but I was able to find a really fantastic definition or reason why. Um, and the way I've created this workshop is so that you all can take it and share it with anyone you'd like. I'm giving you permission verbally right now if you are interested. I did put it in the portal and you can download this. And I try to make it so that it's easy for you to fact check and to look at my sources and things by putting them on the slide that I've received them. Sorry, on the slide that I'm speaking about them. And at the bottom here, relationshipsvictoria.com is an Australian website. And they have this defined as professional boundaries that are legal, ethical, and organizational frameworks that protect both clients and employees or workers from physical and emotional harm and help to maintain a safe working environment. So if you think about that for a moment, this is something, a boundary, creating a boundary or boundaries. This is something that all organizations, I should say, should have in place or have a framework that encourages people to be able to do this without feeling any sort of fear or backlash for doing so. Okay, I'll explain the purpose of all of this in a moment. But when you first hear the word boundaries, because we're working with such diverse groups and populations, sometimes we don't consider that this could have negative connotations. I happen to be born here in Canada to immigrant parents from the Caribbean. And I realize all the time the things that I take for granted, all the time. Now, I definitely do have experience with racism and oppression and things like this. But I have to say, even still, there are many things that I'm ignorant to and I'm learning every day. And when you say the word boundary and you're trying to unveil it to your team, who may be comprised of different age groups, different ethnicities, and a whole bunch of other backgrounds, what I want you to realize is that they may have negative feelings about this word, and they may have positive feelings about this word. Okay, so in the first moments of hearing the term boundaries, can anybody tell me what some of the negative feelings are that come from hearing boundaries? Anyone at all?
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Hi, Wahida. I'm Wahida. When to me, when I hear the word boundary, I get a feeling of cautiousness, maybe sometimes feeling withdrawn that, okay, I should be within my limits. Not that as that I go without, I cross it, but it gives me a feeling, a sense of limitation and restrictions to me. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have, first of all, Wahida, thank you very much. You put that in perfect context with what we're talking about. And I'm reading some people that are agreeing with you. If you take a look at the chat, there's a lot of words that we feel immediately when we hear this. So I heard restrictions, limitations, barriers, limits, another restrictions, overstepping, selfish. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Keeping out people, not allowed, all of this, right? Limits. So the reason why I want to establish that is because we're also going to talk about the positive feelings in a moment. But here are some generalizations, 3 really small generalizations that kind of sum up everything we've just heard. And I usually get when I do something like this, a presentation like this. So restricted, okay? Restricted. And let's talk about that when we are talking about anti-racism, anti-oppression environments, all right? If we have people who we're working with that come from other countries, I just mentioned how I take for granted many things. I'm often even surprised because I think to myself that I am a good steward of fairness and honesty and all kinds of positive things. This is what I think about myself. But somebody that may be experiencing different things or coming to Canada from another country, these words can really, really go deep, okay? Really deep in a negative way. So restricted, feeling restricted as a newcomer. Just imagine that you are new to Canada and you feel like you can't do anything you'd like to do because you don't have a PR card. So you can't access programs, you can't access services, you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do that. Add COVID, you can't do more things. It's all can't. And this is negative. This is definitely not the way we want to welcome people to Canada. Next, being held back. Now, this one doesn't necessarily have to go, I won't just use the newcomer example I just gave you. Let's talk about just people who are from other countries or backgrounds, okay, of all kinds. So being held back and feeling as though you're not able to get ahead, join programs, get better positions at work, you know, you're being overlooked for all kinds of things. Absolutely, these are the invisible boundaries that happen to us that we don't always see, but we know they exist. Sometimes we can't even prove them, but we know they exist and they hurt us just the same. And of course, the last one, I don't remember seeing anybody write rejected. But this whole idea of being rejected is really, really condemning for a lot of us, okay? Some people never actually recover from those feelings of rejection based on who they are, what they believe, where they're from, what they're trying to accomplish. And so this is something I want to acknowledge as well. I'm just going to check into the chat because let's see here. Regan says, it is hard for newcomers to understand, sorry, it's moving. So it's hard for newcomers to understand boundaries, especially when you are from the same culture and speak the same language. I actually think that's very true. I do believe that is very true. And we're going to investigate that a little bit more, okay? So somebody says there's an audio issue. Are you having trouble hearing me? Is that a few of you are having trouble hearing me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
hearing you fine.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so I just want to read another one really quickly. Let's see here. I have Nina. Thank you, Nina. Rejections can bring someone's self-esteem or bring their morale down. Yeah, so make them defensive as they grow older. That is such a good one. I am definitely coming back to that. All right, so you all get it. You all understand. And it's important to just establish this because this is going to be kind of the common thread for the entire presentation, okay? Now, next we have positive feelings. So what are some of the positive feelings when you hear the word boundary, or are there any? Maybe nobody can actually think of any, but if you can, put them in the chat, or please, I would love for you to speak up and let's hear what you have to say. Okay, we have some good ones. Clear, safety, realistic, expectations, freedom, clarity, protection, no burnout. We're dead right on. Okay, so yes, those are all excellent ones, absolutely. And if you do it right, you should feel these positive things, okay? These are the ones that are okay. These are the feelings that we want to instill, provide in our workplace, and even in our personal lives, okay? So here, I'm going to talk about this picture over here a little bit. The words to the left, protected, safe, and loved. I have a picture here with, I'm not sure if this is a father-daughter, but to me, in my mind, it is a father-daughter. And he loves this young lady. He loves her so much, and that embrace is a real embrace, okay? It immediately makes me think of him protecting her and wanting only the best for her so that nothing can harm her ever in her life, right? But in order to do that, you have to teach your children certain things, what they can and cannot be involved in, what they should consider doing with their lives and in their lives, and even just basic rules to protect them, right? Coming home at a certain time, not engaging in certain activities and things like this. So again, we're just establishing boundaries. And of course, I know that you know all of these things. I'm getting some really amazing things in the chat that I just want to bring up. So somebody wrote, Vivian wrote, understand your personal needs and wants. Self-care, Maxine, right on. Nina says, we feel safe, protected, stable. Okay. And absolutely, we can see the picture that you're referencing. So definitely, this is what I want to talk about here. Just making sure you all get that part, because we're going to go to this balance. Now, understanding this is because we want to create some balance, and the rest of the workshop may go very quickly. So I just want you to look at the picture here, okay? Work-life balance. That's the very final part of this session today, but I want you to be thinking about this picture in your mind throughout the entire presentation. You're going to see work is a little heavier than life. And that seems to happen to anyone in the fields of work that you're in, because we are serving people, and people who go into this field don't go into it for the money. Am I right? We have good pay and things, but definitely this is about you giving back, you caring about the public, you caring about each other. And in doing that, absolutely 110%, you do give more of yourself than maybe is required, or maybe than you should, okay? So we have that in the back of our minds. Now, let's talk about what you're doing right now. That's sabotaging your success. What is sabotaging your success when it comes to creating healthy boundaries? Well, right away, there are many people that I speak to that tell me things like, Chanelle, you know what, if I say this, they're not going to understand. They're going to think I'm selfish, I'm bossy, I am throwing around my weight, I am, throwing around my title and things like this. So I'm talking about boundaries like making decisions and following through. So you're already doing what? You're anticipating a negative outcome, okay? If you're making decisions when creating boundaries based on fear, this isn't going to work either. It just can't work. You cannot live your whole life in fear. Can you imagine that for a moment? The way that sounds, it sounds wild, like who would do this? But we do this all the time. And I challenge you, I don't even know you, but I challenge you because I know that you are doing this. We all do this. Next, not understanding our worth. That definitely sabotages our success when we're trying to create healthy boundaries. Some of us don't believe that we deserve to have that space and time. Okay, and here are some of those reasons why, what we're telling ourselves. Tell ourselves things like, well, I'm new to the job, so I have to work harder and show, that I'm a team player, and I'm taking one for the team, and I'm doing extra, and I'm working through my lunch, and I'm working in the evenings, and I'm coming in early. And how long can you do this? So not understanding your worth, that you were hired for a job because of your competencies, and not because you're willing to give up the most amount of time in your life to the job. That is something we struggle with. Following old patterns. A lot of us just do what we've always done because it's easier, or we've accepted in some part of our lives that this is just the status quo. So we just continue to do what even makes us so uncomfortable. And we also do this because somehow we figure out how to get it all done. We still figure out how to do it. So on some level, this can seem like you have things under control, but for how long? So there's that. Next, we have engaging in codependent relationships. This is a problem that I had in the beginning of my career. I love people, I really do. I like to spend time with them and understand what it is that they need. And I have a lot of ideas about things and solutions to things because I do a lot of research. And so if somebody had a problem or an issue that wasn't even related to work, but they shared it with me, I would immediately jump into save mode. And it seemed on some level that I was giving and giving and giving and giving. And I thought that that was a good thing because my parents raised me to be selfless and to try to help out as many people as I can whenever I can. But what I didn't realize was that I needed them just as much as I thought they needed me. Without that, without people coming to me and needing the help and the assistance, I almost felt like I would have lost my identity. And that was a hard pill to swallow because if somebody had told me this, I wouldn't have believed them. And I used to get even defensive about it and say things like, they don't understand how can somebody be mad at you for trying to help and things like this. But it's something that you have to learn with time, okay? So engaging in codependent relationships where they become unhealthy is what I'm talking about. And finally, sharing too much information. When you are at work or in a workplace of any kind, even outside of work, really, to be honest, you have to decide what you are willing to let people know about you, because there are many things that, you may share and then regret immediately after. Has it ever happened to any of you? It's definitely happened to me, where you think you are sharing something that is a positive thing or that is neutral in some way, and then it changes and you realize, my goodness, why did I do this? So this is an area where we have to spend some time with our boundaries, okay? Now I'm going to check into the chat just before. Hey, Elham, I know Elham. Just before we go on to the next slides, okay? All right. Absolutely. So somebody's asking for my email and things. I will definitely give you all of it, okay? Let's see here. Now, I just got asked a question. How do I switch to full screen? And I wondered that too when I was in the somebody else's session earlier in the day. Perhaps we can get the answer to be sent out to everybody here in the chat, just so that they can make the screen a lot bigger. Okay. Yeah, from the view. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you very much. Right on. Okay. All right. So now, this is me becoming your big sister. We're going to have a talk now. Okay. This is your big sister talking to you, or your future self talking to you to protect you. And I'm going to say some things that might sound a little harsh, but it is literally just to wake you up so that you can see things clearly, okay? Now, the first one, I'm going to ask you to take responsibility to move forward. And taking responsibility looks like this, okay? So you must acknowledge that you create and allow the environment you're in. If you are working overtime through your lunches and evenings and weekends, trying to get your work done, that means that you need help, okay? And believing that by saying that to your boss, to your colleagues, to whomever, it's going to reflect back on you as though you are not able to get your job done, or you are not the right person for your job. This is something that it's very difficult. I want to give you the answer and say, this isn't fair and you should know better. But the truth is, when you have a family and you have to pay your bills and all of this, you do wonder if you can say this and what the outcomes are going to be. Now, what I want to say to you is this. You cannot do this forever. You just can't. You can't. You will break. You will burn out. You will fail, because this is an impossible way to live. So you will have to find a way to connect with your boss. Perhaps it is, or through whomever it is that's governing over you while you're at work, to have the solutions and go to them with the solutions already. Okay, consider doing it this way, where you come and say, I'm going to need the help. I am working at an unhealthy pace, and I want to make sure that I'm addressing the things that are necessary. But this is not fair because, as you already know, this will come out in another way. Conflicts. You may start getting angry with people, short with them. You may not have the wherewithal to do the things that you really enjoy at work, the things that bring you joy. Okay. So, on some level, you have created or allowed this to happen for some time, and changing it will take some time. But you have the power to change the environment you're in. And that's the good news. Okay. You are so powerful and you can do this, but it will take some time. And I want you to give yourself some time. Okay. At first, it may seem like failing because the idea of taking back what we've been doing for so long is always uncomfortable. If I'm able to look like 3 people at work, like I'm working for 3 people, and then I admit that I cannot and I have to pull back, right away, that challenges our identity. And we don't know how people are going to take this. If we stop doing the work that we do, who's going to do it? How's it going to work? And that's why we feel trapped, like it's all on us. But it is not healthy, and we have to fix this. Okay, I'm going to check the chat in 2 more points. Just one moment. All right. Sometimes we have to say no. And this is one that I struggle with big time. Oh, do I ever? Okay. I love to solve a problem. And I mean any problem. It can be any single problem. Your door is like not closing properly. I can fix that. You need someone to come up with a budget for the whole year for you and your family. I can do that. I just love to do these things. But sometimes we just have to say no. And when I go down into a little bit further into this presentation, you're going to see how us saying yes all the time to people who are not necessarily the people that love us the most, how this actually can damage our relationships. Okay, so we just have to get comfortable with the idea of this. You must say no sometimes. And finally, understanding when to say no takes time. Okay, I'm not expecting everyone to leave here and understand how to do every single last thing. The point of my workshop for today, or the presentation today, is to just make you a little more aware of what's actually happening to you. Because we are all in fields of work where people need us. And if we don't remember that we also need us ourselves, then we become trapped in this sort of cyclical negative place, and we never really feel fulfilled, even though we are doing so much for everyone. So let me just quickly take a check of the chat because I have some really good things. There's some long ones. I encourage you all to read them because they're so wonderful, okay? Vivian and I share that. We both like to solve problems. Now, Kimberly, the never saying no attitude, fear of asking for help, all of these things, setting boundaries with clients is even harder. Oh, we're going to get to that because you are so correct. Often we want to help everyone all the time and rescue, but we should be empowering them to do it themselves. Beautifully said. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase the next one here by Sylvia. We feel our position is threatened if we start to work at the pace we can manage, right? Absolutely. The job of 3 people, yes. So she's identifying with that understanding of what I've just mentioned, and feeling possibly even reprimanded for not being able to do that level of work, okay? So these are some things, oh wow, you all have some great stuff. Please read the comments, everyone, because they're absolutely amazing. And I can see that we all share these feelings, and they plague us. They hold us back in some really terrible ways. So let's talk about how we can begin setting boundaries. I'd like to give go-to guides or steps, but please understand that these are fluid, okay? This is something that I think is very important to share with everyone. And which is why, again, I am allowing you all to take this workshop and adapt it to whatever you need for your colleagues and for your managers or what have you. So let's get started. So list and prioritize your boundaries, okay? That's the first place we're gonna start. You want to spend time with yourself at home and think about what is bothering you right now, okay? Is it a coworker that keeps barging into your office and asking questions at an inappropriate time? Could it be your manager who is not allowing you enough time to think and to get things done? It could be anything, but think about what's plaguing you. What is hurting and harming you the most? What keeps you up at night? What makes your palms sweat? What makes you eat a whole bunch of junk food at 3 p.m. every day while you're at work? Whatever those things are, that is where you're going to start to develop your boundaries, okay? And those boundaries should protect you from anything that is hurting or harming you. And it will take some practice saying them out loud. So now the next thing is getting comfortable with how you're going to say these things, right? How do I tell someone that I don't like when they come in unannounced to my office because I'm in the middle of doing something? Or that I don't like people going through my drawers when I'm not in the office, you know, or borrowing something and not putting it back the way they found it, things like this. So you know these things bother you, but how you say them is it's all about how you say them, because you can pretty much say anything to anyone if there's respect involved in that. But this is probably the toughest part for all of us, okay? So what am I asking you to do? I am asking you to walk around your homes and talk to yourself. Say it out loud just to hear what it sounds like. When you start to do this, what you're actually doing is building a dialogue of words and ways of illustrating what you want. But by practicing it out loud often, it allows you to adapt it to whomever is in front of you, okay? So while you may start off thinking you are building a boundary for person A, if person B comes with a different personality and style and what have you, you still have to be able to adapt how you say that to reach that person, which is your new audience. And doing this will absolutely help. Next, highlight when someone crosses a line. This one is the toughie, okay? If you are more introverted than extroverted, this can be really, really difficult, but only the first few times. Once you get over that hump, it should become much easier for you, and it often does, okay? Especially if it's the same line that people keep crossing. So what am I talking about here? If somebody does something you've already asked them not to do, as they're doing it, I would like you to consider telling them right away. It helps for retention and to remember what it is that somebody doesn't want or doesn't want you to do. I'm going to give you an actual example that was happening to me at work, okay? So somebody new started working where I work, and I think she wanted to make me feel included in her new group, the people that she was working with, because we weren't working together on a project. We had separate projects. Now, she would do something quite often that at first didn't really bother me. She would just keep calling me girl. Yeah, girl, yo, girl, hey, girl, 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 girl. And because she was new, I often wondered if she even knew my name or if this was just like a, you know, a collegial kind of a fun thing. And it didn't bother me very much at first. But then in professional settings, so in meetings now, everything was no, girl, you know what I mean, girl, and girl, 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 girl again. And I thought that that wasn't really the appropriate time because we were both in managerial positions. But because I smile a lot and giggle a lot, it's hard for people to sometimes know if something is bothering me. I have to make it pronounced and very obvious, but I also do not like to hurt people's feelings. So I struggle with this a little bit. And then I realized when she did it again in a place that was not that detrimental, it was more so just a few of us, maybe 3 people were around. I kind of whispered to her and said, "Now, when we are around others, I prefer if you just use my name. You know, like I don't mind if we're alone at lunch or what have you, and you do that, but really I would prefer it if you just said my name in a profession when we're in the meetings and we're in professional settings. And she immediately said, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry about that. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that I was doing that." She told me that I reminded her of a friend, and that that made her feel comfortable at work because she's so new. And she said she really was she was very apologetic about this whole thing. But I thought that that was the appropriate time to tell her, not in front of everybody to grandstand and make her feel embarrassed, because I could tell she wasn't demeaning me. This wasn't one of those obvious situations where somebody is trying to hurt you or harm you or belittle you. I could tell that wasn't that. So this is what I mean. It can be as simple as this, okay, where you lean in, say what you have to say, and jump out. Next, step 4, forgive yourself if you've made an error, okay? So if you share too much, if you say or do something that you think crossed the line, perhaps your boundaries were too stiff, too negative or hard or harsh, please do not beat yourself up over it. I also teach something called personality dimensions. And personality dimensions is fun, and I really love it. I know Elham knows me, so you know that I love this thing. This helps me to understand people's personalities. It's a psychological tool that helps to understand what people are thinking in their natural temperament. So there are certain personalities that make errors and cannot get over it very quickly. And a lot of us in this kind of a field are those people, to be quite honest. So in that sense, I need you to take the time away, analyze what the issues were and what you do not feel comfortable with, so that you can train and take the time to make changes going forward. This is what you're doing right now. You make a problem or an error or an issue for yourself, for others, or what have you, and you get fixated on the feelings of what happened in that situation. Now you feel sad. Now you feel mad. Now you feel hurt. You're focusing only on the feelings. And while that is important to feel your feelings, you cannot get stuck there. I'm going to ask you to focus and spend the time you need. This is a mental health exercise, really. Spending the time you need to understand the components of what just happened so that you can move on. Okay, that's very important. And that's the way that we change. Does somebody have something they'd like to say?
Yeah, Chanelle, can I say something?
Please, I would love that.
Thank you so much. This is Vivian. I love your session. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes, like we settlement counselors, we are dealing with many different cultures, and especially when you speak the client's language, they think that you are from their community right away. Some of them, they call me sister. Some of them, they call me auntie. Some of them, sometimes it's very hard. Like you don't want to disappoint them, and it's very hard to tell them this is not appropriate because I'm a counselor. I'm not your auntie or your sister. Or some of them, like they go further and ask different stuff, like labeling you different stuff. So how we can, like, what to do to
I love that.
to set the boundary with such a, because they call you out of love and respect, but this is the culture. Their culture is different from like my culture. I do speak their language, but that's not my culture. Like I speak 5 languages, and each client from those different communities, when they speak to me, they think I'm from their community, and how they treat their own people culturally, they treat me that way, or they call me friend, my friend, my friend, and I don't know how to say I'm not your friend.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for sharing, because I believe this is a very common thing that a lot of us in here actually experience. So thank you for bringing that out.
Thank you so much.
So there are 2 things that I'd like to suggest. The first thing is, because it is so common, often we can have a workshop that introduces the idea of this in a general sense. And then this way, it is not so specific where the person has to be directly embarrassed by that situation in that moment, okay? This is helpful. Of course, I wouldn't make the workshop only on this one thing, but this could be an area where you can show that there is a bit of a difference. However, I personally know that it doesn't reach all of the audience, okay? There are going to still be people that are going to think, yeah, well, so what about this thing? She speaks my language, so she is like me. So in that moment or that area, you may want to just lean in, especially if you are alone with them and you're having some sort of a common assessment or an assessment, or even an appointment with them one-on-one, where you politely, maybe even change your tone and body language and everything to just lean in and say, you know, I always feel so special when you mention to me that we are friends, and acknowledge that we speak the same language. But I have to let you know, that is something that not everyone is going to receive well. And while we're at work, I really have to focus on being professional. And professional means that we are doing the task at hand. I think with each person you speak to, it's going to be different, but you have to find your own style to say that exact thing. Because really what we're doing, without even knowing it, is holding them back from evolving and making sure that they understand how things work. And when I say that, I mean it in the most genuine, polite sense, okay? With you, you are so lovely. I'm sure you know, you don't like it, but you also don't make them feel badly for it. But someone else may. And so we're just prolonging the inevitable, which is them, you know, feeling this from somebody eventually anyways. So it's better that it comes from you, someone that cares, that genuinely cares, than someone else who may actually hurt them by delivering the information in another way. But what you've brought up is so common and absolutely something we all struggle with, which is why I want you to practice. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're
Yes, you
very
are.
welcome. Somebody else who wants to say something? Okay. So if you can mute your session there. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So now we're going to go into setting expectations. We're still doing okay for time, but as I mentioned, this first part is really slow to establish those things. And now we're going to go into some of the other topics. So setting expectations. Now, I want to address the difference between boundaries and expectations because they go hand in hand, okay? So the difference between these two is that a boundary focuses on your needs, which are within your control. These needs belong to you. It's what makes you happy or what makes you able to do your job. Whereas an expectation focuses on the behavior or action of others. And this is not within your control, okay? You can't control people. I always say, if you can, I don't want to hear about it because it's probably illegal, okay? You cannot control people. You can put an expectation of what you would like. And if it's done well, this actually is very beneficial to relationships of all kinds, right? So this one, these two definitions were adapted from NayaClinics.com. And of course, as mentioned before, I made sure to include the link at the bottom should you want to look at it for yourself. Now, we're going to discuss working with coworkers, employers, and then specifically with clients when it comes to expectations, because they can be different. They can absolutely look different. And I'll even give you some examples of what an actual expectation, when it's done well, looks like. So coworkers, when we build these expectations of what we would like people to aspire to, it helps us to understand how, it helps them to understand how to work with you, your coworkers, okay? Some people do it really in a casual way. I worked with somebody that would say things like, Don't talk to me in the morning. I am not a morning person. And while that is not the best, most professional way to set an expectation, it's clear. I understood what that person meant, okay? It creates opportunities for positive interaction. This is huge. When people know what they're supposed to be doing, or you know what the expectation is, it makes it easier to approach, and of course, it enhances communication between coworkers. Now, with your employers, this one I find is pretty interesting because for an employer, we don't think we can set expectations for our employers, for the managers, for the bosses, right? But when you do in a healthy and safe way, and I will give you an example of one, it assists them in understanding how to utilize your skills. How many of you are working in a job and you know you can do so much more than you are in your role, but the things you want to do, okay? You have great ideas. You have all kinds of things that you'd like to try, but because of your role or your title, you're limited to certain access. Maybe you don't have access to software or services or something in the organization. So this is what we're talking about. Teaching them how to utilize your skills through setting expectations and helping them to prepare for opportunities for succession. So for you to go to another position that maybe pays more and definitely has a different title and things like this, okay? Next, setting expectations with clients. So it helps your clients to know what they should, could, and can do. This is why it's so important to explain to them whenever you get the opportunity what is appropriate and not appropriate. But it comes with practice. You have to feel comfortable and confident in doing it. People feel often when you're confident about what's happening and you say it in a polite or kind way, they love it because they now know, they understand what you're saying and what it is that you mean. But when you leave it to people who are not genuine, polite, kind, that are rough around the edges, and quite frankly, just don't care about others' feelings, you're leaving them again to be exposed to some negative experiences that some people never really recover from, okay? So there's that. Now, it helps people to prepare, it prepares them for what comes next. When you set an expectation for a client, all right, I need you to be here at 9 and you cannot be late because of this, this, and this, and this, and this reason. That is incredibly important because it allows them to self-regulate and to feel empowered to do what they need to do, okay? Which is the next one. So it empowers people to act with accountability. And I'm not sure who mentioned this before in the chat, but some very clever person mentioned this before, that we should be empowering people to act on their own, okay? To have accountability, to understand the first point, what they should, could, and can do. And finally, it allows someone the space to communicate without fear. If they understand what they are supposed to be doing, then they can become creative and think larger, bigger, and soar with their ideas, okay? Which is what we want. Now, there's a sentence at the bottom here that says, remember to be aware of your tone, expression, and body language. This is always key because you may not agree with me, but I'm a firm believer that you can really tell anybody just about anything, but it really matters on about how you are conveying or revealing this information, okay? Has to be full of respect and kindness, especially when it comes to a negative or a difficult thing to say. Now, at the end of each slide, I always check the chats. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm going to just quickly check and see what people are saying. Oh, Wendy, perfect. Wendy says, sometimes not what we say, but how we say it. Absolutely. I have somebody saying it's the same in my culture. Respect is key. Body language and voice and tone are important to set boundaries. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Please keep them coming. You all have some really, really great statements in there. And it, again, helps us to retain the information. Okay, so now this is how we're going to be doing this thing. How do we create the expectations now? We need to understand why we have to create it. Why are we doing it in the first place? Is there a need? Okay, if there is a need, then it must be done. And if there is no need and it makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you can make it wait for now. Okay, watch it and monitor it to see if it's something that will come up again and again and again and will require your attention. And if it does, you must address it. You owe that to yourself. Next, clear terms. Use clear terms and avoid generalizations if possible. If you are not giving dates and times that you are expecting things, or adding what's next, the next one, context, purpose, people will not buy in. What's in it for them? Why do I have to follow this thing? It's not important enough to you because you made it too general, and people pick up on that. And sometimes they do it maliciously, but quite often we're just all so busy with the noise of life that we can't always focus on the needs of others unless they express them clearly. Next, of course, providing context and purpose. And that again goes to what I said before, where you want them to buy into what it is that you're selling, your idea that you're selling, what your expectation is. Next, this one I added at the last minute because I realized sometimes when we're setting our expectations, we don't realize others may interpret what we're saying or asking in a negative way. And I feel like you have to put yourself in their shoes before you give it to them, okay? If I say to someone something like, absolutely no one is supposed to enter this room under any circumstances at all, and just leave it there, it sounds a little threatening and definitely negative. I didn't give any context. I was general. You know, I didn't really consider that somebody may feel like that was kind of a barking sort of an expectation. But what if it's because there are live wires in here? What if it's that this room is full of crocodiles and you cannot come in here because you will get hurt, right? So this is what we're talking about. We want to just spend the time to think about how someone else may perceive that information and what that could do to them, if it could harm them or make them feel negative. Next, familiarize yourself with your audience. And this is about respect. I'm currently working with youth, so I have to research constantly, you know, what it is that they like and that they're interested in and what they want to hear and all of this. But I also realize that the people that are writing these articles on youth are often my age. So you also may want to consider talking to the people that you are working with, okay, with your audience. Research alone or assumptions alone just will only take you so far. And then you will actually start to see that you are not prepared for what comes next. Eventually you do, you just do. So understanding and familiarizing yourself with your audience is something that we all should be doing so that we don't miss the mark, okay? Just gonna check in with the chat again before I go to the next slide. Right on. So I see Vivian is agreeing with the, you know, understanding alternate interpretations, especially when it comes to cultural awareness. And thank you for mentioning that. And yes, Kathy, absolutely. It's in the portal. And I have given everyone permission to take these slides. You can use this presentation. I didn't lock it, so you can amend it, change it, do whatever you like with it. And I've also made sure to cite the websites that I've used as well, okay? And I hope it serves you well. I absolutely do. Now I have one here that's really a good one that I'm kind of reading here. So Grace mentions, let's see here. I found this session, oh, okay, well, this is cute for me, that's right here. She mentions bilingual platforms where frontline workers, sorry, I just, in the sector can learn, share experiences and challenges, and also connect. Okay, great. So check her out, everybody. Please check her out in the chat, okay? She's got some good stuff there. And yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. You are more than welcome. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So some expectation examples. For a coworker, what does this look like? I would like to get your part of the report by noon today so that I may review it and complete my part by the deadline. Okay? So the expectation, I need it. Why? There's some context, a buy-in, so that I may, of course, do my piece. Next, this is the curious and interesting one, the employer one. I've been working here for 6 months and I would like to request scheduled reviews with you to understand how I'm performing in my role and where I need to improve. Okay? So this is where you're setting an expectation from your boss. Maybe they don't give you a review. Maybe they wait until it's so bad and then they just bark at you. And it hurts your feelings and you go home and you can't sleep and you can't, visualize how you're going to go back to work or how you're going to repair the relationship. So this is where you, again, are teaching people how to treat you. And this, I think, is a very safe example of how to do that. And finally, with our clients, our lovely clients, I need you to complete the paperwork so that I may enroll you in the program. The information you provide will help us to assess how to serve you and address your concern. Okay? More context, the buy-in. It's polite, to the point, and it's clear. All right? This is what we want you to be considering when you're creating your examples. All right. Here we go. Oh, you're very welcome. You are very welcome. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Let me just move on to the next slide. Okay, so we're doing conflict resolution. You may have seen that. Conflict resolution next. So this one is, yeah, let's just jump into it. I'm not even going to give you any preamble because we all have had this once or twice in the workplace, either with a colleague, maybe your boss, maybe with a client or what have you, right? So what are we trying to accomplish when we are settling our differences? We need to make sure that we have a common place where all parties can leave with their dignity, okay? When we are involved in conversations where there's only one right way or only one wrong way, and we are putting people down for things that they may not know, understand, or have experience or exposure to, this is not fair. It's just not fair to do. And, if you don't believe in karma, if you don't believe in experiencing things so that you can understand people better, it usually comes back to bite us in the butt, right? When we don't take the time to care about other people's dignity. Next, an understanding that there are different opinions and ideas, and all of them are valid. Even the annoying ones that you cannot believe people have, that you think, how on earth can you believe in this or think this thing? They're valid because these people exist in the world, which means that you have to deal with it, even if it is so far removed from what you think and what you believe. And finally, knowing that you may not solve an issue with the first try is something that you also have to acknowledge, okay? You may need to come back, separate and come back multiple times before you're able to get the job done. So it brings me to this guy, Mr. Right? Now, that need for always being correct, always being right, that actually says a lot about the individual that feels that way. Now, I'm not going to say anything negative about this person because I feel like all of us are this person sometimes. But we have to understand that when we have that need to always be the right one, it's about control, believe it or not. You may not want to admit that, but it's about control. And the more you want to be right, the more out of control maybe your personal life or your life at work may be, okay? And this is, again, your big sister just being honest with you and telling you what's going on. Sometimes, even if you are right, you want to let somebody else win this argument. And it's about building relationships and connecting and understanding people as opposed to just being the one right in the room. What does it mean to have that title if everyone around you can no longer stand you? or it no longer respects you. It's not a good crown to wear, okay? So just consider that for a moment. I'm gonna quickly check the chat because I didn't do it with the last one, and I wanna just see here. Respect yourself. Remember. I think the greatest challenge we face is to unlearn some of what we've been socialized to believe in. I love it, Elha. Like making mistakes is not good. Exactly. Making mistakes means you've tried and you learn from those things, right? I always feel that providing as much information as possible when you set the expectations will give people the context and allow them to understand the reasons behind them. Absolutely. This helps with potential resistance and anxiety from their part. Ooh, I love that. I might steal that. That was from Margarita, by the way. Like I might take that, Margarita. I'm just letting you know. Really, really well said. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, because there's no one way to solve problems, all problems, what I want to do here is to show you different styles. And again, this was adapted from another place called knowledgehut.com. Now, I really want you to check them out. They're not paying me. I'm not really endorsing them overall, but I loved their website when I was doing the research for this. And I really think that this is something that you can share with your clients. They have short bursts of information that are just so valuable. Now, they had 5 different resolution guides. One of them was competing and something else, but I don't personally like that one, so I left it out. But please check them out if you're curious. Now, the first one here, problem solving, collaborating, and confronting. This is when there are multiple parties involved, and you have to focus on getting a common outcome, okay? Which really all conflict resolution is about. But take, for instance, you have 2 split teams in an office space, okay? So now you have to determine what is the best route or outcome for everyone. And it is not easy to do this, especially if there are stark, complete differences on opposite ends. So this last word, confronting, I don't know why, it just seems negative to me, but what they're talking about is confronting the issue, the problem, the underlying thing that's happening that's making everybody not feel like themselves or the best versions of themselves. So this collaboration where you hear all sides and agree equally to come up with the common good is an approach to conflict resolution. The next one, compromising and reconciling. This is usually where you have somebody that could even be someone of authority in an authoritative position, who realizes that they're going to have to compromise in order to get people to believe in what's happening, or to buy into what needs to be done next, which is very similar to number 4, where often a manager would come in to smooth the information of the situation because people's feelings are still too hurt. It might be too raw, too new, and you can't just kind of approach it just yet, okay? So there may be some, right now, this is what we're going to do, a Band-Aid solution, a quick solution that needs to come back again to be revisited. So that's number 4 that I just explained. And number 3, withdrawing and avoiding. If you can believe it, that is also a solution to conflicts as well. If you are red hot mad because something has happened to you, then you have to consider this, okay? Consider just staying away. We all already know this, but it's harder to do it while you're in the moment, especially if you feel that somebody has tried to hurt you intentionally. This is so hard to just be calm and collective in these moments. But what I'm asking you to consider is to walk away. Spend time with yourself to regenerate, to recoup, to get out of your mind with the negative thoughts and to focus on the possible solutions that could come out, okay? So, am I being literal? Yeah, in some situations, don't walk down the hall where that, what's her name is, that you just had the argument with. Don't participate in group discussions just yet or right now. Take the time that you need, and when you feel strong, you feel like yourself, then you can go back in and request that time you need to address those situations, okay? All right. Now we're going to talk about improving workplace communication. And I just want to check the chat really quickly to see if there are any questions there. Okay, Kimberly has something good actually. Knowing your conflict style is helpful so that you can be self-aware enough to know how you typically handle conflict. And if that style isn't working, you can try other methods. Kimberly, oh man, Kimberly, you should be teaching this to me. I will definitely come back to that. Conflicts are inevitable when people with different personalities and goals are put together to work in the same environment. Vivian, that is so important. Absolutely. You also mentioned people are usually afraid to make mistakes. And Elham agrees. And I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, we are. We always are. We always are. Fear of being judged. All right, back to the workplace communication. So this is at the core of everything we try to accomplish at work. Making sure that what we're saying is what we mean and what we mean is what we say. But again, that is easier said than done. If we do participate in this, less workplace conflicts should arise. We shouldn't have as many as we usually do when it's done well. And it promotes a healthy work environment and also promotes good self-esteem. And why would your managers want you to have good self-esteem? Because you produce more, you do better, you feel confident in your skin, which allows you to try new things. Next, better work satisfaction and staff participation, which is literally what I just said. All right. I forgot I have these colored here. Okay, so the communication guide. How do we approach all of this? So the first things first, ensure that you understand the core values of your organization. If you're working with newcomers or other diverse populations, what you want to do is understand what it is that you are supposed to accomplish. Maybe it's in your mission statement or something like this. But by doing that, it allows you to do all of the other things that you see here very naturally. So setting parameters by example, okay? At the beginning of workshops where there's participation, having a set of rules, allowing people to jump in and to explain how they feel by following those rules. And you also following them, not to skip any of the rules so people don't take them seriously. Of course, promoting opportunities for staff and colleagues to share ideas and opinions, and creating an environment where people can, as it says here, practice professional communication strategies. So during teamwork, you know, maybe there's some sort of an award for the best ideas that come to the table, or some sort of a situation where somebody different leads a staff meeting each time you have them, okay? And then of course, for the managers in the room, please remember to give feedback regularly. Many of the people that work in this field of work have the personalities that they understand they're doing a good job if their managers are providing feedback on a regular basis. And remember to highlight the positive things that people are doing so that when you have to say something negative, they don't feel that it's one-sided. You know, we don't want to harm or hurt the people we work with. Colors again. All right, I just want to make sure we have enough time for questions. It's 4:08 and we're done at 4:30. So I'm going to jump right into creating work-life balance because I know this is the big draw, but let me take a look at the chat really quickly to see what we have. You're all so insightful. This is beautiful. I have Raja, who says the goal of engaging in a conflict discussion is reaching a resolution. Absolutely. If you already know that you're not capable of making a change, it is certainly not worth it. That should be in a book, right? I love it. I love it. Withdraw or avoid is so self-regulation, is also self-regulation. Absolutely. So you can bounce back and be interaction ready. Right on, right on. Okay, so I love these actually. I wish I can save these. I don't know if I can, but I will ask them if I could. They're really good. Thank you for your comments. So creating work-life balance. This is the coveted thing, as I mentioned before, that we're all trying to attain, what we all want, what we all dream of. It is the balance of time or zone between work and your personal life and your personal time. Okay. This is the definition or the buy-in here. Or the buy-in already existed. I can't take credit for that. But the definition that's here. We want to make sure that we, we're able to serve our clientele to the fullest. But we also have to be able to do what's necessary for our families, okay? And quite often we make the mistake of putting our families on hold for our jobs, which does not allow us to create the balance that we want, right? Here's something that I want to address. So our layered lives and the expectations of us at home and at work. We have these families that love us so, so much. And we have work colleagues that care about us. And we have clients that need us. But what we often do is we sacrifice the time with the people that love us, that care about us the most for our jobs. They'll understand. They have to understand, right? I mean, I have to work. If I don't work, there's not going to be any food here. We're not going to have a place to live. You won't have the nice things, the Xbox and all of the other things that you want. I have to work. Sounds familiar? I know it does, because I've said it to my family. And it hurts me now that I'm aware that, they see me on a computer and they think they can't ask a question, right? I'm missing out on all the giggles that I hear in the house in the basement. Everybody's laughing at something and I have no idea what it is because I'm upstairs working. And then when you go to work, doesn't it hurt just in the most real way when your boss or your colleague doesn't respect what you've done, or they try to minimize the amount of effort that you've put into something? So this is why I'm saying you have to decide what is fair, okay? You must decide what's fair, because you can't keep hurting the people that love you the most. That is not fair. Now, the next thing here is the digital world. Now, with the introduction of all kinds of tools, we're online, we're on the cloud. So now we can't say we're not at work. We can access work from home. We have our cell phones. They have apps. There's so many things keeping us connected to work. So now when we are at home and should be relaxing, we're thinking, I just want to look at my emails so I know what kind of a day I'm going to have tomorrow. And then you have to answer the emails. And then, this is how it all goes. So we have to be aware of this, and we have to make boundaries for ourselves. This is important to your mental health. You cannot be plugged in and be everything for everyone all the time. Fight for yourself. You deserve that, okay? So is work-life balance even attainable? Is that even a thing? Is that really a thing? I've read so many articles and I've seen analysts say, no, it's not. The best thing we can hope for is understanding that you're going to do the rest, make errors and mistakes, that there will be times where, you have to share spaces and zones, which is on the next few slides. And there is a give and take, okay? But you must fight for your mental health. You must. It's just, your inner you needs it. It absolutely needs it, okay? It is a struggle every day, absolutely. Oh, these are so great, I love it. Pamper, relax. Yes, do what gives you pleasure. And exactly, they don't have to be huge things. Sometimes I just volunteer to do grocery shopping even though we have everything. Why? Because I can walk down the aisles by myself in my own time and just chill all by myself. And this is my mental health break, okay? And I encourage you all to consider finding something that works for you just the same way. All right, so now we're going to be creating balance. And here is that picture again that I want to use to kind of summarize what we've just discussed. Work may come into harm and you may allow that, but you have to police it. You must be aware of how many times and why it's happening, and if there is a buy-in for you, or if this is just something you hate doing and have to change the style, maybe ask for training or something to enhance and help you out, okay? But you've got to fight for your balance. This is huge. Now, I will check the chat in a moment, but let's let's get to this slide here. So attaining balance. First things first, you must accept that there will be times when you have to share zones. You know, I was kind of one-sided. I was talking about work at home, but sometimes we do home stuff at work, right? We pay our bills online at work. We check our emails online at work, our personal emails. And sometimes we print things at work that are personal as well. So accepting that you will be sharing zones is fair and realistic. The idea of having a perfection kind of a situation where exactly at 4 o'clock, I'm done. They're not going to get one more thing out of me, or vice versa. If you're running late in the morning to work, that they're going to fire you because you're 8 minutes late. These things are not fair. There will be times that you will share zones, okay? Create opportunities for flexibility. Maybe you give yourself some flex hours. Maybe that's how you start. That's how I started. I said, I will not exceed 2.5 hours of my home time in a week to, you know, do work from home, that kind of a thing. And then I realized I do need a little more time, but I'm not going to do those 10 hours a week kind of a thing that I was doing before. So instead, I raised it to 3.5 hours. And that seems to be fair. That seems to be fair. 3.5 hours. I still have lots of time with my family, and I don't feel like I am burdened completely with all this extra work. Okay. Next, respect the people in your life and the time that you share. You have children or a spouse or some other relationship that's, you know, that you share in your home. You have to consider these people. These moments never come back. Okay. And, you know, your children, as they get older, may say things to you like, I wish this and I wish that. And of course, you won't be able to believe that you gave up those moments for your job and may not love you back the same way. So we want to make sure that you are focusing on your clients and giving your all, but you are also doing the same with your families. Respect yourself, fight for yourself, fight for your mental health, and assess how your strategy is working and make changes whenever it's necessary, as I mentioned, okay? I had to do it. And, you know, if I have to push more than 3 hours, that's when I know I'm going to have to talk to my manager and say, the truth is, the volume of work I have cannot be done in a single day. I'm going to need to, and then you share some of your examples and ideas for how to resolve or solve this issue, okay? You have one life. Make sure that you're enjoying it. That is key. That is absolutely key. And while I am just pulling up the colors here, I'm just going to read the chat because we are actually done. So I'm going to see here. Oh, you're very welcome. Oh my goodness, this is so lovely. These are so lovely. Please, I hope you're all reading the comments. They are so wonderful. Oh, retail therapy. I love that. That's too funny. Yeah, I know, the shopping, right? Oh, this is so kind. Raja, thank you. That's a beautiful compliment, and I thank you all. I want to thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate it. It's a topic that means so much to me. As I mentioned before, I struggle with it also. And, you know, I'm still evolving and learning as I go along, and I hope all of you do as well. Please take a screenshot of this if you don't have time to look at your portals to download the slide. And if you'd like me to email it to you instead, I absolutely will, okay? You are more than welcome, all of you lovely people. I wanna thank you for your time and I wish you all well. Take care. Thanks again. I'm going to stop sharing in a moment. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, I love it. I love it. You're so wonderful. Oh, my smiley face. That's funny. I love that. Oh, you guys are, this is the best for my self-esteem. Have a great evening. Okay, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much. I learned how to download it.
Right on, Kathy.
I have
Awesome. So glad.
bad hair
Keep in
day.
touch. Keep in touch. Okay, my contact information is on the last slide. All right. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.
You are fantastic.